All right, guys, so we're 16 days away from the 2025 NFL Draft. The Baltimore Ravens happen to be very good at the NFL Draft. The last few years, grabbing guys like Isaiah Likely, Tyler Linderbaum, Odafe Owe, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, a bunch of franchise-shaping type players that can really change your roster. That's what the Ravens are about to do, man. And we got some updates on some visits, some guys that have been brought in, as well as some updates on Isaiah Likely, Nate Wiggins, and more, man. We're going to talk some Ravens football, make sure you're up to date on all of your Ravens news. So welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy, Noah, here with For the Flock. As always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Ravens today. I'm grateful for every single one of you guys. If you guys have been enjoying these episodes, make sure to leave a video a like. It really does help out the channel. Let's dive in. At number 1, the Baltimore Ravens have just hosted a visit with offensive tackle Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, who's projected to go in the first round. He's also visiting with the Packers. Now, a couple other small school, later round type of guys were also reported to be visiting with the Baltimore Ravens. But with these visits, you got to take them with a grain of salt, because the Ravens are usually pretty secretive about their draft motives. Like, do you guys remember that night out of nowhere when Marquise Brown was traded to the Cardinals, and we used that selection to draft Tyler Linderbaum in the first round? In that same draft, we got Tyler Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton. We're talking about 2 all-pro players that completely change your roster, one on offense, one on defense. Young building blocks for your team. Or do you remember when the Ravens traded back up in the first round to select Lamar Jackson? Talk about changing your franchise. Talk about, the 2-time MVP. Should have been 3-time MVP. By the way, I just got to show this stat real quick at number 2, and we'll go back. But Lamar Jackson, not winning the MVP in 2024. Look at this stat. He's the only quarterback in NFL history to have a season with 4,000 passing yards, 40 passing touchdowns, and 800 rushing yards. He also broke Michael Vick's all-time rushing record the same season. Lamar Jackson broke Michael Vick's record in 103 games played. Michael Vick, with 6,100 yards, did it in 143. So in 40 less games, multiple seasons, Lamar Jackson shattered the record, already won 2 MVPs. He was the first-team All-Pro quarterback, but wasn't the 2024 MVP. Just thought I'd throw that out there. The other funny thing was, every season in NFL history where a quarterback threw for 40-plus touchdowns and had a passer rating of over 115, they won the MVP, except for Lamar Jackson in 2024. Here's the list: Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Brady Manning. So Lamar, what he's doing, what he's on the trajectory for, is absolutely a Hall of Fame type of career, one of the GOATs. And the only thing he's missing is that Super Bowl ring. And if you keep knocking at that door, I believe it will be opened. I thought Lamar Jackson took a massive step forward in the playoffs this year. He looked the confidence against the Steelers, the confidence against the Bills whenever he had that, 90 seconds left on the clock, 87-yard touchdown drive whenever Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, his wide receiver 1 and 2, were both out. He looks like he had ice in his veins. His confidence level looked different. And I think it's a matter of time before Lamar gets that ring. But my point is, going back to the visit with Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle, is that usually the Ravens don't let stuff out. And if you see something, it may not be accurate. I'll just show you this clip from Eric DaCosta to give you a reminder.
We're very secretive in Baltimore. We don't want to be connected to players. You'll never really, if you see us connected to a player, that probably means we're not connected to that
right.
player.
We've learned.
So I don't ever want to be connected to anybody.
So there's definitely a strategy of smoke and mirrors, where you can put out visits in the open. You can hide visits better than others. You can make sure certain media guys get a hold of information to maybe say, hey, I'm interested in this position or this player, while really your motive is somewhere else. I said earlier in the last video, I believe like 90% certain that the Ravens are going to pick a defensive player in the first round of the draft, unless a crazy guy falls like Ashton Jeanty, who's supposed to be like a top 5 or 10 pick, he falls to 27. Or like maybe, Will Campbell, the offensive tackle, or like some crazy player that's really, really talented, like a top 15 player falls to 27. I think the Ravens are going defense, man. The Ravens are really complete on offense, maybe some work at the guard positions, but the defense, we need another safety, we need another corner, we need some more juice at pass rusher. We could even use another linebacker in that rotation, or possibly another starter next to Roquan Smith, depending on what happens with Trenton Simpson. We'll get to that in a second, but at number 3, let's talk about Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews are both free agents next year, so the Ravens are going to have to make a decision. But Isaiah Likely wants to make that decision for the Ravens as easy as possible because he's putting in that work right now. And I'm sure Mark Andrews is too. It's always funny, like, when you see these clips come out, there's a lot of players putting in work in the dark. But then there's players that, social media and all that, and it's always fun to see the workouts going on, but Isaiah Likely's putting in that work. We saw the workout clip of Derrick Henry the other day, but I think Isaiah Likely will take over as the tight end 1 for the Baltimore Ravens this year when it comes to targets and receiving yards. Will he be the go-to guy in the red zone? I don't know. Mark Andrews has specialized in the red zone for years and has been Lamar's guy for years. So will that change? I don't know. But I think Isaiah Likely is going to take over the number 1 role sooner rather than later. And if I had to make a choice, if I'm the Ravens, Isaiah Likely is about 5 years younger. We already paid Mark Andrews a second contract. I'd like to see Isaiah Likely get that second contract. Man, he shows up in clutch moments. I think in back-to-back years, touchdowns in the playoffs, like clutch moments. Against the Texans, against Derek Stingley Jr. in coverage in 2024, before the AFC Championship, and then 2025 in the playoffs against the Bills, that ice cold, literally in the snow, in the ice, in the cold, that touchdown where he slid and made that diving catch to possibly tie it up before we know what happened with the 2-point conversion. Point is, Isaiah Likely is clutch. He's got the dog in him. He's got just the ice in his veins in those big-time moments, and I think he's going to be the guy moving forward. I'm not done with Mark Andrews. I'm not saying, like, he shouldn't get snaps or anything or be a big part of the offense. I think he will be. I think he's still got a lot of juice left in him, and he's very talented. But I'm just saying I think as we move forward, Isaiah Likely will be taking over. Do you guys remember the situation with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz with the Eagles a few years ago? I think it'll be something kind of similar to that situation. At number 4, another visit for the Baltimore Ravens. Again, take these with a grain of salt, but this guy is intriguing. UCLA linebacker Carson Schwissinger, who's projected to be a top 40 type of pick, he had a visit with the Baltimore Ravens on April 7th. Now, it's funny because Ian Rappaport puts out, he's an NFL insider. He puts out, hey, he could be a play for the Ravens at pick number 27. To me, if that comes out from a big reporter like Ian Rappaport, I don't believe it. I don't buy it. I think that's a big smokescreen. However, I'm not ruling out a linebacker in the first 2 rounds, definitely first 3 rounds of the draft. There's a couple of guys that in the first round, if they fell, would be really hard to pass up. I mean, they're top 10, top 15 type of prospects. The kid out of Alabama and Georgia, both very, very talented linebackers. If they fell, you'd have to think about it. Now, imagine 2 terrorizing elite-level linebackers in the middle of the defense, like we saw the last year, Patrick Queen, how good that defense was. Remember, the Ravens are in a great spot roster-wise to just go BPA. If the best player available is a receiver, and it's like, dude, we already have D-Hop, Zay Flowers and Bateman, but we can't pass this guy. Like, pull the trigger because the roster's pretty complete. If the best guy's an edge rusher, let's go after edge rusher. If the best guy's a corner, let's go after corner. If it's a safety, pull the trigger. We are in a great spot as a roster where we don't have to reach, we don't have to force it. We don't have to say, well, we really need this position, so this guy's better on our board, but let's go with this position. That's why the Ravens have been so successful in the draft. The same exact thing happened with Isaiah Likely. We already drafted Charlie Kohler, before him, but we drafted Likely. Now, remember, in 2018, we had drafted Hayden Hurst in the first round, and then Mark Andrews in the third round. both of the latter picks ended up being better because they just took the best player available instead of saying, well, we already drafted a tight end. We can't draft another one. Let's go after a different position. They didn't force the hand. That's why the Ravens have so much success in the draft. Now, Schlesinger earned first-team All-Big Ten and All-American honors in 2024. 136 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. He's an excellent blitzer, and 2 interceptions. He's good in coverage. This guy's a complete 3-down linebacker that would definitely be a boost for the Ravens defense. Remember, the Ravens have 11 draft picks, so if they grabbed a guy in the first round, wanted to move up back in the second, earlier to grab another elite prospect, it's not out of the realm of possibility with the amount of picks they have, or if they ended up, trading a guy to move up, swapping picks, it's all possibility. At number 5, the first round pick from last year's draft, Nate Wiggins, is putting in that work. Nate Wiggins, I don't know if it's just me, but I think his shoulders look a little bit broader. The big knock on him was the size. It looks like he's beefing up a little bit and adding some weight to his frame. But not just that, man, he looks good with his movement skills. This cornerback room, this secondary, has the potential to be a shutdown, lockdown secondary. Not just because of the talent, right? We're talking about Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, Darius Washington, Nate Wiggins, all returning for the Ravens secondary. Then you got some talented, intriguing guys like, Chidobe Awuzie, who, if he's back at his prime, can play very well. About a year and a half removed from injury now. We're also talking about TJ Tampa, the 4th-round pick from last year, who's got talent. And then Jalen Armour-Davis is a great depth guy who's always played well when he's been healthy but has struggled with health. So the Ravens secondary could be very, very nasty, especially if they add another safety or corner in the first 2 rounds to really, really load up that room with talent. But Nate Wiggins, we know he's going to be one of the guys holding it down on the outside, opposite of Chidobe or Marlon. Harbaugh said that he wants to see Marlon in the slot pretty much full-time. That's where he had both of his all-pro years and plays his best ball. So kind of expect Marlon to be in the slot, and then Chidobe, Jalen Armour-Davis, Nate Wiggins, TJ Tampa to be in the mix for the outside positions. Then whoever else they add in either free agency, guy like Jack Jones is available, right? Or, whoever else they add in the draft as well. So I'm excited about this secondary. I think it's going to be very deep and also loaded with top-end talent and experience. Plus Zach Orr, year 2, the new secondary coach, Chuck Pagano, plus the guy they brought over from Kansas City who was under Steve Spagnuolo. I'm excited about this defense, man. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. Smash the like button if you got any value out of today's content, man. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all, and we'll see you in the next video.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.